You're listening to Entrepreneur Encounter, the podcast where soft skills meet real talk for creative business owners who are building with purpose. I'm Dana, a Pinterest marketing strategist and agency owner helping wedding pros and creative entrepreneurs get seen without burning out.
And I'm Sarah, a business and team strategist who helps small teams and podcasters communicate clearly, lead with empathy, and grow sustainably. Together, we're unpacking the messy, meaningful side of entrepreneurship, from boundaries to burnout, leadership to listening, so you can build a business that actually fits your life. So here's something that's going to kind of mess with your head a little bit. We've been told our whole lives that confident leaders are the ones who have all the answers, who walks into rooms commanding respect, who never show uncertainty.
And that is completely wrong. Honestly, having that mindset that I have to have all the answers nearly ruined me at the beginning of launching my business. I thought being an expert meant that I had to know everything about Pinterest or the platform that I was supporting my clients on before anyone even finished asking me a question.
Same. In operations, I used to think admitting I didn't know something made me look incompetent. Like, if I didn't know everything, then why am I here? But it was the complete opposite.
So today we're talking about flipping the script on what leadership actually means. So for the sake of tuning into this episode, forget everything you thought you knew about strong leadership, because the most confident leaders aren't the ones who assert dominance. They're the ones brave enough to ask why and how can we do better.
Yep. We're talking about humble inquiry and prepare to redefine your understanding as we explore how asking better questions leads to better growth.
This is going to challenge some deep-seated beliefs, but I promise if you stick with us, by the time this episode ends, you'll see why the strongest thing that you can do as a leader might just be saying, I don't know, but let's figure it out together.
It's so funny. Like when you think of, I don't know, people assume that you don't know and don't want to actually learn the answer. But story time. So about 2 years ago, I was working with a client who had a podcast and she was struggling. Her downloads were not where she wanted to be. The engagement was non-existent, and she was just really frustrated with her show.
I feel like I can see where this is going.
So, the old me would have just walked in and just like, here, this is the operations manual and here's what we're doing wrong. Like saying, this is what's going wrong. Your upload schedule's inconsistent. Your show notes are not to par. You're not optimizing for SEO. Then I was like, yep, this is me being an expert. I'm telling you what is all wrong.
That's the classic, which we've talked about before, but the let me fix it for you approach. And I think that's somewhere that we've all been at least once in our professional lives.
But in that moment, something made me pause. Maybe it was that she was defeated, or maybe she was just having a moment of wisdom. So instead of launching into solutions, I asked, what does success look like to you with this podcast?
Which is always a great question to start out with, because success is going to look different for everybody.
Exactly. And this is where you have to, ask the questions. And asking this question completely changed not only their perspective, but my perspective as well. Their answer to this question is, I don't want 1 million downloads. I want to have conversations that help others feel seen. And then that's when I realized expert solutions were solving the wrong problem entirely.
That is, I feel like, so on par with many situations that we've had. I know I've had a similar experience with a Pinterest client. We had chatted because her content wasn't getting saved or wasn't getting the visibility traction that she was looking for or hoping for. And so I mentally was ready to come in hot and heavy and overhaul her entire visual strategy. But something, like, as I was reviewing her questionnaire and whatnot, something made me pause and ask, what's working well for you right now that you want to keep? Because we don't want to change everything. That's overwhelming. And she said her audience really connects with her behind the scenes content. She wants to keep that, even if it's not quote unquote Pinterest worthy. Turns out, and this is something I've seen across other platforms, not just Pinterest, but her authentic, slightly messy behind the scenes content, in this case, pins, were actually performing better than anything else. In her unique case, she just wasn't reading her analytics as often or as properly as she should have been. So if I had gone in and completely overhauled her strategy, then it would have destroyed what was already working. So taking that pause and asking these questions of why or what is my actual goal is super important.
That is really important because this, what I realized, and tell me if this resonates with you, Dana, when we come in as an expert with all these answers, we're actually operating from a place of insecurity, not confidence.
I want to say no, I don't relate to that, but yes. I feel like we're afraid of not knowing something so that we fill the silence with solutions before we fully even understand the problem. I mean, I talk about this a few times, or I have talked about this a few times, of like looking at the data, because that's why I like looking at data, because it's not going to lie. It's going to tell you what's working and what's not working. But then it allows you to like pinpoint what is the real problem. Are you like, do you have a lot of impressions? That means your content is being put out there. So your keywords are working. So we don't need to change that. Leave those alone. But is your content, once it's discovered, is it getting saved? Is it valuable enough to save it to come back? If not, then we need to change something in the title and descriptions or even on the graphic itself. And then we start there. If you're not seeing the outbound clicks going to your website, well, then maybe your call to actions are too weak or not even existent. Maybe there's not enough value in the content to want to click through. But then a step further, because my job is to get people to your landing pages and whatnot. But are you getting the outbound clicks but still not seeing the conversions? Well, then something else is wrong and we need to find that gap. But that you can't find those answers if you don't ask the questions. And you just jump in problem solving mode instead of pausing.
Exactly. I believe that's where the true confidence comes in because, going back to asking questions, we are expert in what we do, but we don't have all the answers. We have to ask those open-ended questions to our clients because, like you said, Dana, if it's working, keep that. And if something else on the other end is not working, then we need to understand why that's not working. And by asking questions and inquiring the information from your client and from your expertise, you can come together and understand what is going on.
I think that's something to dig into a little bit deeper because I'm starting to learn that leaders become leaders or experts in their niche because they're not afraid to ask those questions. So let's unpack that a little bit. And when you think about leadership models, especially the ones you grew up seeing, what did those look like?
That the boss, leadership, the leader, who's ever in leadership has all the answers. The person at the front of the room who never showed uncertainty. They make decisions quickly and you believe they know everything.
I grew up being taught that expertise equals authority, which equals never admitting that you don't know something. That's a terrible way to be.
So terrible.
In my millennial mindset. But here's what I've learned is that model doesn't actually create growth. I mean, there might be some growth. I'm not going to lie that, there are some success, but I think in the long run, you're not going to see what it is that you're wanting to see. That's why in the, what was it called? The Great Resignation or whatever, from a business owner perspective, it started coming to light how exhausting operating with that mindset really was.
I would think, yes, that is exhausting because as a leader, somebody that's, running a business, operating a team, doing all these things when yes, you can have answers, but nobody is going to have all the answers. And having having those conversations, especially with the people that are in your space, you never know what's going to come to light, whether it be good or bad, because as you grow within yourself and your business, and if you have a team, you're growing your business and your team, everybody can come together and create this culture where everybody is, I would say, everybody is okay and feels more comfortable and confident to ask the questions to get to the bottom of understanding of what's going on.
I think when we try to be that person that knows, I'm going to call out social media on this one, but like every trend, every best practice, every algorithm update, which as we all know is unsustainable. And it, in the long run, it was making me less effective, not more, because I was trying to keep up with too many things instead of honing in on becoming an expert, if that makes sense. Like I'm more interested in how to do it than what trending audio I need to attach to it, if that makes sense. So you can have expertise and strong initial thoughts, but if you hold them lightly enough, the new information can change your mind and help you grow in ways that you didn't really think was possible.
I still bring my operations expertise to every client conversation. I'm not showing up empty-handed, but I'm still leading with, being curious instead of just coming to a conclusion. Like, we're going to stop right here. This is the solution. But if you do that, there will be no growth. You're just going to be stuck.
I like that. And honestly, I feel like I like that approach more. It feels more collaborative, if that makes sense. It's the difference between a doctor who immediately prescribes medication versus one who asks the follow-up questions about your symptoms so that you trust that they're actually listening and care about your overall well-being. Humble inquiry doesn't just make you a better leader, it makes you your whole team smarter. And using the doctor now, like you and your doctor are a team, you want to be healthy and happy, and that takes follow-up questions. And in the case of, business, when you model curiosity with your leadership style, other people start asking better questions too, because they're learning what they see in action.
Yes, it becomes the culture of learning instead of the culture of knowing. And honestly, in our businesses, things change, the algorithm updates, new platform features, shifting client needs. But I truly believe that a learning culture is way more valuable than knowing everything.
I'm always encouraging questions with the people around me.
All the time. Like
So
it's not dumb to ask a question. You don't know if you don't know, and then have those conversations. Ask away. I'm open. Ask me any questions.
So I think with that, or going along with that thought process, I think we need to reframe what questions we're asking. Instead of asking questions that confirm what we already think, we need to start asking questions that could actually change our minds and our viewpoints, and like not necessarily question in a bad way, but like get us questioning, is this where we want to go? Is this the right path? Are we going in the right direction? Is this actually working? Does this align with my business values, goals, mission, XYZ?
It's like going down that amazing rabbit hole. Sometimes, it's like we talked about this on one of the other episodes about being like a lifelong learner. If you don't go down the rabbit hole, yes, it can be distracting because you have other things to do, but I want to learn. I want to learn so many things. And when I find free time, I'm like, that looks cool. Let me learn that. So Dana, what are some questions we can give examples on of when it comes to changing the minds of and perspectives of others.
For me, with a Pinterest perspective, instead of asking a client, which of these pin designs do you like better, which assumes the problem is design choice, I have started asking, walk me through what happens when someone discovers your content. What do you want their journey to look like? And that could reveal that design isn't the issue at all. And we plug in or take a look at what happens when they get to the landing page. Does it match the pin content? Does it feel like it's two completely different people? Like we look at the whole web of branding and content creation and what's being shared so it's cohesive.
Yes. And that is teamwork, collaboration right there. I love that. And in operations, I would, instead of asking what's not working in your current system, I've started asking what would have to be true for this process to feel effortless. It opens completely different possibilities because I've worked with different clients and different, the way their operations are set up. And some are extremely more in depth, and other operations are just simple to the point. This is what's going on. And I want to know, like, how does your brain work? Like, how do you see your project management tool set up? How do you want your team, like, how do you want to help your team grow within your business? Not just saying, yes, they can come to me asking questions, but are you able to invest in your team and provide the resources? So, coming up with different solutions and then asking everybody that's in the space, like your team, if or if you have a partner, what would work better for everybody so that everybody can grow within their role.
I think that's huge. I think from my perspective of going from worker bee to owning my own business and starting to slowly grow a team, true humble inquiry means sitting with the answer, asking follow-up questions, and maybe even saying, let me think about that, instead of just rapid fire problem solving, which I still kind of do with my kids, but real life. But I've learned, like, even with that, with them outside of business, like, follow-up, they need to hear follow-up questions. They need to get used to that so that hopefully when they're in the working environment, it's not so abrasive and they can take criticism and they are starting to think outside the box and critically think, because leadership is all about evolving, and you can't become the kind of leader who, the goal is rather to become the kind of leader who creates solutions with people and not necessarily for them.
Exactly. Speaking of evolving, the way that the business world and the workplace is incredibly different than it was, when our parents were working, when we were kids. There's a lot of things. It was all about work, work, work. Like, do your work, come in, do your work, and that's it. And being the worker bee and going and working for somebody else, noticing there was no room to bring suggestions. I've been in that situation where ideas and all of that were shot down because I'm at the bottom. So leadership is always, what's the word? Better than everybody else, like, in a sense, because they know everybody, or they think they know everything. So and it happens a lot in corporate, when an assistant has this great idea and they go and talk to their boss and the boss shuts it down. And I know for myself personally, as I've seen things happen in the workplace, now when I grow my business and grow my team and all the teams that I work with, I know what I don't want to do.
Yeah.
I know, you know what I mean? Like, I want to make sure that everybody who's in that space, we all have the opportunity to come in with solutions to help brainstorm, collaborate together, because I believe that's the culture that should be built.
Well, and I think that helps foster, a team. Everyone on the team is invested in making it work, whatever it is.
Exactly.
They're not just following orders, but they're invested And in that, since we're talking about asking questions and follow-up questions, I think that also requires you to be comfortable with silence and potential uncertainty. Sometimes the best insights come after a pause. That's why we hear a lot of unplugging and resetting. That's what that is. You're getting comfortable in the silence. You ask a question and then you just sit and you wait. And you don't just go with the first response. You take a moment to actually consider what the solution is. Is it going to work? Like, you let your brain run with that so that you can resist the urge to just fill the silence or to take the first solution. And you're actually looking like a Band-Aid solution, and you're actually looking for a long-term, I don't want to keep saying solution, but a long-term solution, because that's all I got for you.
I believe that could definitely help with getting to the bottom of things, because if you don't, what if you come up with a solution like right then and there, and you didn't even think about it, and then it's not going to work. So yes, like, even grab a piece of paper, sit in that silence and like just write down your thoughts to help you come up with the next step.
So do you, and your experience, because you have more of the operational background, do you have any soft skills in the wild mini moments that you want to share?
Yes, I will share a story. A couple years ago, I was in a team meeting, and I think there was like 4 or 5 of us in the meeting, and the owner and somebody else, they were in a heated debate. They were arguing. We were trying to figure out the best way to send proposals, and both of them came out with ideas, but it ended up turning into like this whole argument. Which, one, red flag right there. You're in a team meeting with 5 people on your team. So if an argument does start, I think you need to stop that and go offline. But in that moment, I was like, wait a minute. Let's stop this right now, because this is a conflict. This is not coming to a solution. This is not helping anybody right now. So let's ask questions. So I would ask questions to dig deeper into person 1, what they were coming up with, and person 2 and what they were coming up with, and then coming to a solution. And that helped in a sense, because the third party, me, would come in and, de-escalate the conflict, because in the workplace, of course, conflict is going to happen. Everybody's going to have their moments, but there's always a time and place on how that's handled. And when 2 people are butting heads, either you can separate them, or you can step in as a second eye, second set of ears, so that you're able to shift the conversation so that you're not allowing the conflicts to happen. So you have to kind of insert yourself in those conversations in a way that's going to help everybody understand what is going on. And this can change the mood.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to change the mood, because now it's like, okay, well, this person sees that we're arguing, like a mediator, right? Mediator that would help resolve the conflict and get everybody's thoughts out with causing more conflict. It's going to transform the dynamic.
And something like that, like, it just takes a millisecond, 2 seconds to shift that thought process. I know that does take practice, and that's why we talk about soft skills and like working on them, because they are things that need to be worked to like a muscle. But shifting from one to the other, like, it just helps transform anything. That curiosity can keep things. Honestly, I think the curiosity can help keep things from getting heated. And it goes from let me convince you and dictator to help me understand what's going on. I know I get on everybody's nerves, because I'm always like, help me understand, because I don't get why you did what you did. I don't think it's wrong. It's just not what I would do. So But having that pause changes the complete outcome. One, I think I confused people by asking that question, but I think I want to give people a voice and a chance to grow and to explain, and give myself a chance to grow and to change and to see maybe a different way of doing things, maybe a smarter way of doing things, because I'm able to have that second pair of eyes and thoughts disrupting my tunnel vision of, oh, this is the solution, and disrupting that a little bit, just enough at least.
And have you noticed when you ask that question, help me understand, it's they're surprised. It's almost like saying, telling a stranger at the store, have a good day with a smile on your face. Because it's about understanding where somebody's coming from. I love that. I love having conversations, and yes, people do get offended because a lot of things I want to understand because I'm trying to learn. And I've seen this in my personal life when somebody, with anybody that we don't have the same, beliefs or values or anything like that. But instead of getting in an argument, I'm trying to understand where they're coming from. I want to learn their perspective. Although I don't, like you said, don't agree with that, I want to understand. And I've been in conversations where people do get offended. I'm like, no, I'm not trying to be offensive. I truly want to understand. I mean, when you're in school, you ask questions to figure out how you're supposed to do your homework. So it's kind of like one and the same. And then as you're building your business and building your network and all the things, to understand, you have to ask questions. I'm constantly asking questions. I've been told I do ask a lot of questions, and people have been offended by it. But if somebody has been in business for 10 plus years and I'm still at my third year, I want to ask you questions on how, you know what I mean? Help me understand. Yes, I can go to Google and search, but that's not a person. That's not experience. I want to understand where this person is coming from, what they did, how they became so amazing at what they're doing, all of it.
Absolutely.
All right, let's wrap this up. Dana, what's one thing you want people to remember about humble inquiry?
Absolutely. If you get anything from this episode, I think you should remember that asking great questions isn't a sign of weakness, but it's a genuine strength. The leaders who are brave enough to say, I don't know, but let's figure it out together, are the ones who create breakthrough solutions and build the strongest teams and have the most successful businesses.
Yes, it's definitely not a weakness. Keep asking those questions. So we're going to give you some homework. So this week, try replacing one statement with a question. Instead of saying, here's what we should do, try, what do you think would work best here, and see what happens.
And pay attention to how it feels, because of course I have to bring the woo-woo into this. It might be uncomfortable at first because we're so used to leading with answers and not having those awkward silences. But notice how much more you learn about the people around you when you take a moment to pause, feel it, learn from it, and get curious.
If today's episode has you realizing maybe you've been trying to solve the wrong problems in your business operations, I get it. My day-to-day is all about understanding what others need in their business. Curious what this can look like for you and your business? You can book a free call with me.
And if you've been throwing marketing strategies at the wall, hoping that something sticks, you might be asking the wrong questions with your audience. So instead of, why aren't my pins getting saves? Try asking, what does my ideal client actually need help with? Identify their pain points. I help business owners get curious about their Pinterest marketing strategy instead of just following the latest trend. So when you ask better questions about your audience, Pinterest becomes so much clearer. If you need support with that, you are always able to book a call with me.
Amazing. We thank everybody for tuning in today. Until next time.
Thanks for spending time with us today. If something in this episode gave you a fresh perspective, share it with a friend or send us a DM. We love hearing how these conversations land with you.
And if you're curious about how soft skills can support your next season of growth, we each have more resources to share.
You can find Dana on Instagram at danas.desk.nc for Pinterest strategy and intentional marketing.
And Sarah at URembert for team development, business leadership, and podcast support.
Until next time, keep leading with purpose
and growing with intention.